of you have already seen, no doubt, on the extent of the fiscal challenges facing Michigan's local units of government. Then again, a very brief economics discussion about sort of the underlying economic logic of cooperation. And then I'll provide a little bit of evidence about what's going on in Michigan local governments in terms of collaboration, some of the barriers and opportunities that local units face, talk a little bit about some of the policy options, and here I'd love for that to be a much more open discussion, and then tie up. All right. So the extent of the fiscal crisis, again, is being well documented. Again, it varies region to region. Places have different, are facing different challenges, but I think the overall picture is pretty clear. In the fiscal year 2010, state equalized value fell 9%, 9.2% statewide, 13% in Southeast Michigan in the 7-county SEMCOG region, and that was the second year in a row that SEV fell. And then on the taxable side, taxable value fell 6%. I'm sorry, I'm reading this because I don't want to get these figures wrong. 6.6% statewide, 9.9% in Southeast Michigan, and 11.8% in Oakland County. That's the third year in a row that TV fell significantly, such that the overall decline since 2007 is 32%. Think about that for a minute. Local units of government get most of their revenues from property taxes, and the taxable value statewide fell by a third. That's a lot, okay? And 92 communities just in the SEMCOG Southeast Michigan region, out of about 143 units, 92 lost 10% or more of their taxable value in 1 year, okay? So this is the tax base on which most local units draw most of their revenues. Of course, there are some other sources of revenues as well, but this is the overwhelming base from which property taxes, which fund most local services, derive, and it's fallen enormously. I think most of us already knew that. Discontinuation of major stimulus funding that helped a lot of local governments ride out the storm in the last couple of years is now ending. There's evidence of various increasing costs in things like fuel and labor costs and other, usually not property costs like rents and so on, offsetting that, but certainly not decreasing costs in the same proportion as the decreasing revenues. And then, just as a final little bit of data, the Treasury fiscal health scores that the Treasury Department puts together, they've got 10 indicators of different aspects of fiscal health. And those communities that are, that don't score fine on 5 to 7 of those 10 are considered to be under fiscal watch. And what did I do wrong? Oh yes, I'm sorry. Under fiscal watch in 2009, I'm sorry, in 2008 there were 64 of those, and 5 which scored 8 or higher on those scores, meaning that they're in fiscal stress. Okay, so that is in 2008, 64 fiscal watch, 2009, 5 fiscal stress. By 2009, those numbers had increased to 109 cities and villages, townships, and counties under fiscal watch, and 6 under fiscal stress. Okay, so more and more communities are falling further and further into this fiscal stress red zone, if you will. There are plenty of folks that feel that that's not the best indicator of fiscal stress. I've been involved with a sort of a work group task force that has been talking with the governor's office a bit about some of these indicators. They're not perfect, but I think they are indicative of a trend that more and more local units really are falling into, a close to desperate place. Okay? That's all I was planning to say about the extent of the fiscal crisis. Does anybody have any questions? These data are largely from Treasury and put together in reports by both SEMCOG and the Citizens Research Council. So if you have any more questions, if you'd like more information about where the data come from, happy to do that. Yeah.
Well, since you brought up fiscal stress, what are some things that the state should be following that they're not tracking right now?
That's a good question. So, I know I did invite the question, but I'd like to leave that till the end because that is an issue that I'd like to talk about there. So, and I hope that you'll offer some of your suggestions also. Anybody else? All right. Okay. Oh, and then just I guess there's one last slide on this topic. I'm going to talk more about the survey from which these data are drawn, but very briefly, these data are from a survey that the University of Michigan Center for Local, State, and Urban Policy in the Ford School, in partnership with MML, MTA, and MAC, the Michigan Municipal League, Township Association, and Association of Counties, do twice a year. These are data from the spring 2010 wave of that survey. A survey is mailed to the top elected and appointed official in every local unit in the state, so it's a census, all 1851, do I have that right? It's 1851 units are asked to participate. Those without an appointed administrative official, it only goes to the elected official. But typically we have about a 70% response rate, so lots and lots and lots of information about what local officials in Michigan's local units are saying. And this is just to give you a sense of reporting about fiscal year 2009. You can see that amongst counties, if you add the first two who report that their tax revenues greatly decreased or somewhat decreased in that fiscal year relative to the prior, fully 84% of counties reported such a decrease. To me, the somewhat more startling is amongst cities where 36% said that their revenues had greatly decreased. And you can see that townships are sort of feeling the least crunch by these measures, or at least reporting the least severe decreases in revenues, and then villages somewhere in between. So again, this is just to give you a sense of how on the ground local officials are reporting their fiscal situation. Okay? Okay. So let's talk. So that's sort of setting the stage a bit. I guess I need to stay back here. Setting the stage, really, you know, nobody denies that cities really, sorry again, I did it again. Local units, you know, many of them really are no longer in a place where they can just cut the fat. There's no fat to cut. Year after year, local units really have been facing these fiscal pressures and have done a lot to streamline. Kind of reminds me of the fiscal management at the University of Michigan, where we've year after year managed to streamline really well. We're really efficient now. A lot of these local units are as well. But so really now business as usual is not an option. And so why cooperate? Well, I think it's really important to remind ourselves that there are a lot of reasons that local governments may want to cooperate, may want to share services, may want to work with other units of local government, and not all of them save money. Not all of them save money. I've sort of made the font lighter for two forms of cooperation that really don't save money. And a lot of the others sometimes save money, but not always, okay? So when we talk about collaboration as a solution to local units' fiscal problems, we have to keep in mind that different forms of collaboration do different things. This is the economics lesson. You do them for different reasons, and they achieve different results, and that's not always saving money, right? And so let's talk a little bit about those. All right, does everybody know what externalities are? It's this local government does something and it imposes costs on that local government. And this local government has really nothing to do to change what local government A does. So this is a classic picture of sprawl.